There's even pondweed and stuff in here. What a nice little habitat this is.
Yeah. There she is, our mighty successful hunter, Terry.
Woo, doggies! Now that was quite the hunt. I'm glad we had boats or we might have needed scuba gear. Sometimes Mother Nature can work against you, and this was definitely one of those times. Stay tuned for a story about moose hunting, rain, rising waters, and a flood of almost a biblical scale. Hi folks, Spencer Rempel here, the Moose Whisperer, bringing you exciting hunting and outdoor adventure stories from around the world. And today's story is brought to you by me and my first hunting client, Terry, a 110-pound ball of fire that could work, hunt, and shoot like no other. You don't have to be a big, tough man to be a great hunter. This small woman proved that tenacity, strength, and character come in all sizes. So let's get straight to the story. The year was 2011 in the coastal mountains of British Columbia. I'm not going to tell you where, but it was close to Bella Coola. A beautiful place if you ever get the chance to visit. Driving up to the dock, a small float plane awaited our clients as camp was fly-in only, with the use of 2 John boats to hunt a windy stretch of river. Now, myself, another guide named Nathan, and the guide outfitter John had arrived early to beat back the bush, get camp ready, and do a little scouting before our 4 clients arrived. In fact, we had just over a week of work ahead of us. The camp had not yet been touched for a year, so there was a lot of work to do. The day after we arrived, it started to rain, and then it rained harder. Wow, this is a lot of rain, even for the West Coast, I thought. My co-worker and I worked hard cutting brush, making trails, power sawing out log jams and sweepers, as well as bringing in firewood, amongst many other tasks. This rain was heavy. I mean really heavy. In fact, there was no way of staying dry. And in a matter of an hour or 2, you were as wet as if you had gotten up, put on all your clothes, and jumped in the river. It continued to downpour the 3rd day, the 4th day, and the river started to rise. We had a little SOS text message service set up and decided we'd better inform our clients. Not wanting to scare them off completely, we simply said, "We strongly suggest you bring good high rubber boots." We continued to work in the rain for another 2 days as the river swelled and grew even higher. Well, time to send another email. "We highly suggest that you bring good hip waders," we wrote, thinking that this rain has got to stop any time. Let me be clear, it never let up, not for 1 minute. 2 more days went by and now the river had swelled to 2 inches from its highest bank, where our cabin was located, and everything lower than that level was now completely submerged. Well, we'd better send one more email, we thought, and simply texted, "We highly suggest you bring chest waders." It was still another day until they would arrive, and we hadn't seen or heard a moose anywhere. Which is really strange. I mean, this is moose heaven. Remote with no outside pressure from other hunters. I started spending all my time scouting with my little John boat and Mud Buddy surface drive outboard engine. I was glad to have that system instead of a jet drive that would simply suck up leaves, debris, and grass that floated everywhere. The water was so high, I could honestly drive my boat in all the meadows, areas, and even the forest we were planning to hunt. Now, moose love water, but I don't think they like sleeping in it, and we couldn't find a moose anywhere in this valley bottom. Oh well, it can't rain forever, I thought. The water will drop, and I'll call in a big moose, I kept reassuring myself. But anxiety was filling our camp as these people had paid good money to shoot a big moose, and so far I hadn't seen any moose. Our clients arrived, a husband and wife, their good friend, and their nephew. Americans they were, and about the best good-hearted, happy, good-natured people I'd ever met. They arrived with fresh new chest waders from Cabela's and big smiles on their faces. Nothing could discourage them as we slogged through knee-deep water just trying to find some high ground. The rain stopped over the next couple of days and the river height started to fall. Guess what? We even shot a moose right from our camp. Okay, good. These clients weren't fussy. Herm was happy to wake up from an afternoon nap, grab his rifle and blast a bull moose right off the deck. They were experienced meat hunters that understood conditions, situations, and were honestly just happy to be there. Okay, great, but I've still got to get a moose with Herman's wife, Terry, who is feeling a little anxious she may go home empty-handed. We tried spot after spot with no luck at all. Finally, traveling up the valley a little closer to the mountains, we gained elevation and found some dry land. I decided that's where we would hunt. It wasn't my favorite spot because it was really bushed in, which made our approaches loud, our shots narrow and close. We parked the boat on a sandbar, tying it to a log just before first light on a nice and finally not raining day. Or not raining too hard anyways. Terry and Herm and I walked a trail that I had scouted out that would lead us to a small, open, swampy area. A hike that would take about 10 minutes as we approached slowly, quietly, not talking, and making as little noise as possible. Now, both Terry and Herm were experienced hunters, and I was very appreciative of that fact. They knew what to do, but also looked for and listened to my guidance. We hunkered down behind some willows where we could see about 100 yards ahead. I gave my first moose call. A nice long cow call. I had hardly had the time to bring the air back into my lungs when we heard the reply. Ruh, ruh, ruh. Snap, snap, thump, thump, grunt, grunt, grunt. Grunting, running as he came towards us, and grunting all the way, throwing all caution to the wind. Oh my God, that is one horny bull, I thought, and I was glad to know that there was at least one in the area. Now, suddenly, right before he entered the clearing, the crashing and grunting stopped. Darn it, I thought. The jig is up. Somehow he smelt us. I quickly checked the wind again, which was still blowing in my face. I knew that that bull, as anxious and as excited as he was, did not want to approach us blind. Basically, he would be entering that open area blind as they rely so much on their sense of smell. It's his nose and his smell that he trusts before his eyes. I knew that before he got too close, he would want to know what or who was there, and it's only his nose that could tell him that for sure. We waited. Nothing. No reply. Not a sound. I know what that bull is doing, I thought to myself. He's quietly circling around all the way around. He doesn't care how long it takes, but he's going to try to get behind us to get our scent. Okay, we got to move, I told my clients in a very low whisper. In my mind, I could see the trail where we came in, and I knew if we headed back through that thick brush, there was one spot that was open for about 60 or 70 yards. If we got there before him, we could more than likely see him cross that open spot. Follow me, keep quiet, low and slow, I whispered as we ducked down to bush level and started making our way to the spot I had in mind. Myself in the lead, Terry behind, and Herm taking up the rear. Well, sure enough, the second we got to that open spot, that bull came walking out. I made a quick signal to stop as I hunkered down low and gave another moose call, and then signaled to Terry that this was her time to shoot. That bull was only 70 yards away, and Terry was packing a big rifle with a nice scope. I knew she had the shot, but that bull moose was staring straight at us. He couldn't smell us, but any kind of movement or sound was going to turn him on a dime and send him running back from where he came. I knew we didn't have much time, and the seconds ticked by like minutes waiting for that gun to blast. Now, Terry knew what she was doing, and the reason she was taking her time was she didn't have an easy shot. Just because the moose was only 70 yards away doesn't mean there's an easy kill shot. The moose was not directly facing us, nor was he broadside, but about 45 degrees to one side. Now, on a moose, you're always going for that breadbasket shot right in the chest. You're shooting for the heart. So if you miss the heart, you'll probably hit the lungs or the liver, and any one of those is a death shot for the moose. We're not trying to shoot the head or go for the neck, which are much smaller targets and could leave him wounded. Terry lined up her sights on the chest area of that moose, but at that 45-degree angle, that huge shoulder bone was protecting most of that breadbasket area. Now, Terry, being an experienced hunter, knew not to just blast it in the shoulder bone, and was taking her time to make sure she came just behind it and yet close enough that it would take him through the lungs. Boom! Her shot rang out loudly as my ears rang because her rifle was right above my head as I was ducked down low. That moose turned and ran from where he came, but the shot was good. I heard the smack and I knew he wouldn't go far. Basically, he circled back the same way he had come in, until he was back in that open area. He then ran into the middle of the swamp and died right there, at least 100 yards from dry land on any side. Of course. We found him there fully expired and half submerged, with the water not deep enough to float him. No, this was going to be a drag, literally, as we didn't want to field dress him in the water. A long, wet drag. Luckily, as part of our equipment, we always keep a capstan winch. If you've never seen a capstan winch, I definitely suggest that you check them out. They're a small Honda 4-stroke motor with a drum that kind of looks like a very small tire rim on the side. You can take any length of rope. We had a huge bag of rope, 300 feet to be exact, and we would use every inch of it. Tie one end onto the moose and the other wrapped around that drum. You increase the throttle, the drum turns and slowly pulls the rope in as you pull the rope hand over hand in coils near your feet. Check them out. These are a must for any hunting camp. All right, back to our story. We winched that moose right up to dry land and started field dressing it by doing the gutless method that would be best for us, considering our hike to the boat, long travel downstream, and then pulling all the moose parts up high into a hide to keep them cool and away from the bears. The day was just starting, and so was the work. Many hands make light work. We radioed camp and everyone came to join us. We laughed, joked, and told stories as we sharpened our knives and continued skinning and cutting. There is a camaraderie that exists between hunting partners that's hard to explain. Something about that shared experience draws people together like I've never seen. They say shared hardships brings people together, and on that hunt we had plenty of that. A few more days would see all of our clients harvest a moose. The only 4 bull moose we seen, and I was so thankful my clients weren't fussy on the antlers. Well, you can't eat the antlers, they said, and we're happy with the meat and the memories, knowing that that was the true value. I couldn't have been more impressed with that woman, and it was a great reminder to never judge a book by its cover. Thanks for listening to that story, folks. Now I'd like to tell your story. Please send in your hunting or outdoor adventure stories to info@themoosewhisperer.com. Have a great day, and you know what? More stories to come.